Federal government sets December deadline to pay minimum wage arrears. Oyo State Assembly passes anti-open grazing bill, says it is to promote peace. In international news, UK Prime Minister calls for December elections. And in sports, Nigeria drops to 35th in FIFA ranking.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The Federal Executive Council has approved the payment of the new salary structure of 30,000 naira minimum wage as agreed with the labor unions last week. The Council has also directed the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning to effect all these payments before the end of December. While briefing the Federal Executive Council, Minister of Labour and Employment Dr. Chris Ngige also listed government agencies and levels that are entitled to the new salary adjustment. FEC also directed the National Income and Wages Commission and the Ministry of Labour and Employment to send the consequential adjustment table to the states and local governments as an advisory document. The Oyo State House of Assembly has passed the anti-open grazing bill. ANN had earlier reported some controversy surrounding the bill after Fulani herdsmen from various parts of the state decided to go the legal route to try stopping passage of the bill. The lawmakers insist the bill, which is now law, will foster peace, promote agricultural business in the state, and end loss of lives and constant clashes between herders and farmers. House Speaker Debo Ogundoyin assured the people that the Assembly considered all suggestions and memorandum of understanding submitted by various groups, agencies and representatives of different communities and tribes before the bill was passed. Ogundoyin emphasized the bill addresses open rearing and grazing. He said it also encourages and protects economic activities of others in agricultural-related ventures. The House of Representatives Committee on Finance is asking questions about the failed Abuja CCTV project and the $460 million loan taken from China to fund it. Committee Chairman James Faleke and other House members are insisting that the Ministry of Justice explain to Nigerians what caused the failure. Faleke says it is important Nigerians know the position of the loan or the project because the federal government would definitely have to repay the loan. Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed said in her response, Nigeria is servicing the loan, but she was unable to provide an update on the project. She promised to get a feedback from the Federal Capital Territory Authority in whose jurisdiction the project was deployed. The contract involved a payment of 15% by the Nigerian government and 85% by the Chinese Exim Bank to be repaid within 10 years at the prevailing interest rate. Nigeria's urban and rural areas are facing a pressing solid waste management environmental problem. With a population of more than 117 million, Nigeria is one of the largest producers of solid waste in Africa. Despite a host of policies and regulations on solid waste management in the country, inability to properly dispose of the waste is assuming alarming proportions with each passing day. Deji Badwas has more details.
Bottles that we've collected from water companies.
Blessing Ekwere is at the heart of the operations at EcoBata, a waste collection startup she and a friend set up just last year. Their motivation is for a cleaner capital city, and it's thanks in part to their effort that Abuja is considered among the cleanest cities in Nigeria. Plastics are estimated to make up 2.5 million tons of the waste materials generated in Nigeria annually, and apart from Lagos, the bulk of the plastic waste are generated in Abuja.
Our scavengers usually go into dumps, households, and get all this around. And then we pile them up here until it's about, say, 2 to 3 tons before we move them to the companies that break them down for recycling.
Every day, scavengers contracted by EcoBata go around the city, collecting waste which are then brought to this facility for weighing and sorting.
We do door-to-door collections and make sure that even your food waste, the food waste still ends up in a controlled dump site. We also do buy-offs from big scavengers will enter dumps and do buy-offs from them, collect their waste in bulk, and then transport it to the company for them for recycling. So far, since inception, we've been able to divert 100,000 kilograms of waste from landfills.
Through the EcoBata initiative, the scavengers now have a means of livelihood, and about 100 of them now work for EcoBata. At the end of every day's supply, the scavengers and Blessing hold a meeting where each scavenger's supply is calculated and entered into the farm's record for payment.
Part
of the reasons we do this is to be able to earn a living to take care of ourselves and our families. But some of us are orphans. Nonetheless, they can be of assistance to their siblings or friends. In fact, what I earn from this trade in 2 weeks, even a top-ranking civil servant can't earn in a month.
For Aquaria and her colleague at EcoBata, the vision is to create an active and sustainable system that ensures environmental safety one community at a time. And despite the daunting challenge, they are forging ahead.
We need more finance to be able to run this at a larger scale. That's what we want. And then another challenge we have is the mindset, because we are not just about having guys go around to pick waste. We want people to see the importance of sorting their waste, and then so already we in Nigeria, we already have a mindset that it's waste. As long as it has been thrown away, it's away. So we want people to see that they could capture value for their waste, and then indiscriminate dumping is a problem to them.
As the zero waste movement continues to spread across the globe, stakeholders and waste management companies like this are keen on intensifying campaigns to enlighten the general public on the need for proper disposal of solid waste.
Coming up, African news, Botswana president retains office as his party wins enough National Assembly seats. And later, international news, British Prime Minister calls for December elections.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In African news, the ruling Botswana Democratic Party has won the needed 29 National Assembly seats in this week's election to keep President Mogwisi Masisi in office for another term. This was the tightest election in history in this peaceful Southern African country after former President Ian Khama broke away and announced the support for an opposition coalition instead. As the race tightened, many had wondered whether the ruling party would be toppled for the first time since the country became independent in 1966. But opposition coalition Umbrella for Democratic Change was well behind, with a dozen seats counting inched toward an end. Observers report Wednesday's election went smoothly in Botswana, one of Africa's most stable countries. African migrants evacuated to Rwanda from Libyan detention centers say they still want to make the dangerous journey to Europe, despite the abuse they encountered in Libya. Nearly 200 migrants, mostly Eritreans, but also Somalis, Ethiopians and Sudanese were brought to Rwanda after a September agreement with the African Union. Many of the refugees have horror tales, including paying smugglers more than $5,000 to get them to Europe, trips that often ended in horror once on the Mediterranean Sea. Boats often capsized and refugees were often captured by the Libyan Coast Guard. Refugees say what was said to be a United Nations camp turned out to be a detention center where they faced torture and abuse. Women who were held at the Gashuru camp say they were beaten and raped by Libyan guards. Now evacuated to a Rwandan transit camp, the UN Refugee Agency provides the migrants with housing and food. The refugees say they are thankful to Rwanda for bringing them to safety. At least 5,000 more African migrants still remain in the overcrowded Libyan centers where they face abuse. More than 5,000 persons, including professional runners, cancer patients and survivors, have taken part in an international cancer awareness marathon in Tunisia. Many also contributed money to help patients in scientific research in this field. Reporter Adnan Chawochi watched the marathon and now reports.
Tunisians from all walks of life gathered on the main Habib Bourguiba Avenue in Tunis. They expressed solidarity with thousands of cancer patients.
This is the fourth edition of the marathon. Professional athletes will run for 21 kilometers, while ordinary people, families and children will walk for 5 kilometers. Our goal is to show that sport and activity is important for combating cancer.
Many participants ran to La Goulette in the north of the capital city Tunis. Cancer survivors and civil society activists believe that defeating cancer needs strong morale.
I defeated cancer and I'm happy to help other people. Healing from cancer is always possible when one is optimistic. I found out I had cancer at an early age thanks to a cancer screening test.
The long-distance runner Walid Murad completed the 21-kilometer circuit in less than 90 minutes. He encouraged hundreds of people to finish the course.
I dedicate this victory to all women, men and children who are fighting cancer. They can win through patience and determination.
The Tunisian Association for Assistance to Breast Cancer Patients organized an awareness event after the marathon. Doctors said that scientific and technological progress has helped to find effective breast cancer care mechanisms, including genetic analysis procedures, to find out the real reasons for the disease, especially since 5% of the cases are hereditary.
According to the Ministry of Health, between 11 and 12,000 new cases of cancer, including more than 2,500 cases of breast cancer, are recorded each year in Tunisia. By taking part in the annual marathon, patients are given power to choose hope over fear to face this disease.
When we return, international news. British Prime Minister calls for December elections. And later, sports. Nigeria drops to 35th in FIFA ranking, retains 3rd in Africa.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In international news, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has challenged British lawmakers to approve a general election on December the 12th in a bid to break through the political paralysis and throw Brexit back to voters. Is expected to bring it before Parliament on Monday. The proposal would require the backing of 2/3 of lawmakers. That means it needs the support of the opposition Labour Party. The Prime Minister is offering the opposition more time to debate in exchange for the general election. Elections take 5 weeks, so campaigns would have to start immediately. Polls show the Prime Minister's Conservative Party in a comfortable lead, but it cannot be predicted how votes will translate into seats in Britain's winner-take-all electoral system. When President Trump froze the Congress-approved aid to Ukraine, the front lines were immediately affected in their struggles against Russia. Trump has been accused and is facing impeachment inquiry for withholding the funding as part of a politically motivated pressure campaign against the Ukrainian government. Soldiers in the front lines of Ukraine's war with Russian-backed separatists said the freeze contributed to the deaths of some 13,000 soldiers. They also said it affected their confidence in the war and weakened their negotiations with Russia. American allies are increasingly worried about depending on a president they considered unreliable. And nearly 1 year after the deadly Lion Air crash, Indonesian investigators have released a final report in a briefing held for family members of the victims. Silkina Ahuhalia reports.
Nearly 1 year after the deadly Lion Air crash, Indonesian investigators have released the final report in a briefing held for family members of the victims. Anton Sahadi attended that briefing. He's been seeking justice for two of his cousins who were on board that flight.
We are not satisfied with the report that was released to us today. We still feel that it didn't provide us with the information that we have been looking for. Our hope is that the Transport Committee will now abide by the law. The airline should take responsibility and needs to be sanctioned because we don't want this to happen again in the future. Safety needs to be taken seriously.
According to Anton, the committee attributed mechanical issues as the main reason for the crash. He said other factors include lack of communication and education regarding the MCAS, which malfunctioned just 13 minutes after takeoff. Latif Nurbana also lost his son in the crash. Just like all of the family members, he wants clear answers.
The Transport Committee says this report cannot be used as evidence in court, but as families of the victims, we see there are a lot of factors that could work in our favor. We know now that the problem was not human error, it was a mechanical issue. Although they said we aren't allowed to use it as evidence, I think we will certainly use some of this new information for our lawsuit procedures with Boeing.
Latif says Boeing should prioritize safety above economic factors. The 737 MAX was officially grounded globally on March 13th, following a second crash in Ethiopia, less than 6 months after the Lion Air incident.
It's one of the worst fears with which many live, getting trapped somewhere when a natural disaster strikes. That's why the United Nations has put both China's rescue team and China's international rescue team to a test. A 40-hour continuous earthquake rescue drill in Beijing involved rubble, trapped victims and more. And UN experts say they liked what they saw from the two China groups. Here's Chong Tintis.
A victim is finally pulled from the debris. This drill simulates the aftermath of a strong earthquake burying survivors under the rubble of a supermarket. It is also a test of the United Nations International Heavy Rescue Team to determine if China is capable of carrying out disaster relief missions across the world. The China Search and Rescue Team and the China International Search and Rescue Team were evaluated respectively and retested by 20 assessment experts from 14 countries in terms of team management, logistical support, search, rescue, and medical care. This is the first time that two heavy rescue teams in Asia both passed the United Nations assessment.
So we have seen here a lot of perfect equipment, technology that is used in an international standard, and their coordination cells, the so-called user coordination, what is coordinating all the user activities in the case of an earthquake. That is really outstanding, and we are very proud to be part of that classification process.
Every 5 years, the UN carries out a reclassification of each team to see if they are still able to do the job effectively. The UN's chief inspector says China's international rescue team performed even better than 5 years ago.
So every 5 years, the classifiers who come from all around the world to see how they go. In 2014, the team did very, very well, but they did even better in 2019 with less than a handful of items that they need to improve on. So they've already got a very good reputation right across the globe for humanitarian aid, and they're just going to be even better.
China's rescue team joined the front lines of disaster relief missions around the world after being founded by the Ministry of Emergency Management last year. The team helped restore livelihoods in Mozambique after Cyclone Idai hit the Southeast African country in March. The rescuers say the classification tests will help them perform better and faster in future missions.
The assessment work is a guide for us, and we have now a better understanding of the details and procedures. Our actual combat in Mozambique, together with this assessment, will be of great help to our future relief efforts.
Armed with experience and training, the two Chinese rescue teams are ready to help those in crisis and help spread humanitarian relief around the world.
Up next, sports. Nigeria drops to 35th in FIFA ranking. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. This sport. Nigeria's Super Eagles have dropped by 1 spot towards number 35 in the FIFA World Ranking for October. That's notwithstanding, Nigeria still occupies the third sport in Africa, behind Senegal and Tunisia, who are 20th and 29th in FIFA rankings. Board members of the Athletics Federation of Nigeria have met with the Ministerial Review Committee on Thursday to probe Team Nigeria's poor outing at the Doha World Athletics Championship. AFN Technical Director Sunday Adeleye says the meeting, which was also to look into the future of athletics in Nigeria, was long overdue. The committee CRS is expected to submit its report next week. That is any news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Enjoy